What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson. Today joined by my co-host. It says Will Cohen, but it's not Will Cohen. He's busy, so I'm subbing him in. Colin's coming off the bench after his little vacation to Louisiana. So me and Colin are here to continue our mini-series called Fixing the Rangers, where I pretend I'm the general manager. I make a bunch of moves, and then you guys can let me know down in the comment section below if I'm fixing this team or if I'm sending us towards further oblivion without winning a Stanley Cup. So today's episode is about hiring the next head coach of the New York Rangers. For those of you that somehow have not heard, Peter Laviolette is gone, and we have to hire someone new. Now, I have been going back and forth on who I would hire if I were Chris Drury. I put David Carl on the picture here for the graphics. I'm actually not going to hire him in today's episode, though. It's going to be a little bit of a surprise. So we're going to get right on into it. But before we do, make sure you guys like, subscribe, ring that bell so you miss notification. Like I said, leave your thoughts on this hiring down in the comment section below. And lastly, be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers. But before we get into it, Colin, how you doing today? How was Louisiana? I'm sad I couldn't go this time.
It was good. Yeah, it was a good time. We missed you for sure. It was a lot warmer than it is up here in New York again, so I'm a little bit sad about that. But it's starting to turn the corner here finally, and playoff hockey going on. I missed the beginnings of most games because I'm so used to the games starting at 7:00 or like 7:30. But because they're an hour back, every game there starts at like 6:30 or 6:45, and on the weekends even earlier. So I was off on all of my start times pretty much, but I did the best I could keeping up with all the games.
Yeah, I would ask you who you're rooting for, but I see you got a Dallas jersey on today. Don't worry, there's at least some New York representation going on the Rangers channel. But I know if I had to pick a team I was rooting for that's still in it, I'd probably pick Dallas as well. I like Dallas, but my bracket has Colorado advancing, so we'll see. But anyways, today's episode, I'm hiring a coach. Like I said, I've been going back and forth on it. My opinion this morning is different than what my opinion is now, and it'll probably change by tomorrow. There are a lot of good options out there, such as Carl, such as Jay Leach. I know Will has also talked about Jay Woodcroft. I'm going to go with Mike Sullivan. Originally, I was not a fan of potentially hiring Sullivan, but then Pittsburgh decides they're going to part ways with their decade-long head coach. And the more and more I think about it, the more and more I think Sullivan could be a great fit with the Rangers, especially with where we're at right now. Based on the first two moves that I've made in this mini-series and realistically where I think the Rangers are going, I think we're leaning towards more of a retool than a rebuild. I expect Chris Drury to actually want this team to be a Stanley Cup contender again as soon as next season, if not the following. And we know that Sullivan is a coach who can win a Stanley Cup. And I've heard a lot of criticism over Sullivan all over social media saying he'd be just another Gerard Gallant, just another Peter Laviolette, an old veteran coach with the same old mindset that's going to come in here, scratch the young players and focus only on the veterans. But I don't fully believe that. Yes, Sullivan's been in the league for a while, but he's done pretty great things for the Pittsburgh team. 3 Stanley Cups in the last decade, basically. And another big criticism I've heard about Sullivan is the Penguins didn't even make the playoffs this season. You're right. But look at that Penguins roster, right? That the roster that they have now is not the roster they had back in 2016 and 2017 when they were winning back-to-back Stanley Cups. Sure, Crosby's still good, Malkin's still good, but they are getting older. Their defense was not good at all this season, and it's not because of the coaching style like it was here in New York. It's just because the players are super old, and they are ready for a rebuild, which comes with a new coach. I think Sullivan still has it. I think he's a phenomenal coach, possibly top 15 coaches all time, maybe. That might be a bold take. I don't know. But I don't know. I like Sullivan. I think it makes sense for where this team's at. And I think he can, if anyone's going to fix this defense, get Keandre Miller back in the positives, get Braden Schneider back in the positives. I think Sullivan's the guy. I like the other options, especially Carl here in the picture, but I personally think he stays in college hockey. I don't see him making the jump to any team here in the NHL anytime soon. So if I am Chris Drury, I am hiring Mike Sullivan. That's my move. Now, Colin, you can either support me, tear me apart. I want to hear your opinion.
I like this move. I was always a big fan of Mike Sullivan with the Penguins. From the second he was hired, it was immediate success. His first year as the full-time head coach, I'm pretty sure they went back to back, and then they've just had great success. They went on a pretty long playoff streak, and obviously, people want more than the playoffs. But you need a guy who's won cups and a guy who was there for almost 10 years. It wasn't a guy who's going to be a one and done like a Laviolette or a Gallant, not a guy who comes in, is known for having good success in the early years and then losing the locker room almost immediately, which is pretty much the reputation that both Gallant and Laviolette have. I remember reading in pretty much all the comment sections when we won the President's Trophy with Laviolette, all the Caps fans saying, just wait. And then when this year rolled around, Caps fans were like, yeah, no, we all called this. So, I think this is a different hire. I think it's a guy who, he has a lot of success in the league. Obviously, the Penguins were a force for a good chunk at a time. Their roster's gotten old and decrepit, and they haven't made the right moves necessarily. So it's hard. And Dubas hasn't really given him a lot of help up there. Supposedly, Dubas has wanted him out pretty much from the moment he got there. But I wouldn't really be mad with Leach, Carl, or Sullivan. Sullivan would probably be my most wanted just because he has a lot of experience as a head coach already. And I think he could do a lot with this team and the pieces that it has currently, as well as kind of telling Drury what we would need to complement what we already have. I think that he would be a really, really good fit for this team and for kind of what we have going on already. And I'll just read off a couple stats here. I mean, career-wise, in his time with the Penguins, 753 games, 409 wins, 255 losses, and 89 overtime losses. A 602 point percentage. That's all very, very good stuff. And especially down the stretch, obviously these past couple of years have been worse years for him. So, you kind of have to take that into account as well when the Penguins are at their peak, which is kind of where the Rangers are at, I'd like to think. I know a lot of people disagree, but 2 conference finals in the last 4 years, it's hard to argue that we're not kind of around our peak. I think he could do a lot with this team and the players that we have and kind of bring out the best and maybe, rejuvenate some of the players that we currently have, as well as employing some really, really key systems that, would differ greatly from what Laviolette tried to do. And obviously what failed last season. He's had so much success. So I think it just makes the most sense for me.
It makes sense. And, I kind of gave what my move is going to be. You gave your opinion on it. So just a quick little shift here. Let's switch back to reality, like real life Rangers and not just this little mini series. I think this is what's going to happen too. Just hearing the reports that we've seen, especially after the last couple of days, like we always knew Drury wanted Sullivan, but now that he's actually out of Pittsburgh, I feel like the gears are actually finally starting to turn. Like Drury's just been waiting for this moment and he's pouncing on it. Like I'm hearing reports that the Rangers could hire him as soon as the end of this week. That's why I was going to wait a little bit to make this episode, but as soon as Sullivan was fired or parted ways, however the Penguins described it, I was like, all right, we got to do this ASAP because there could be a hiring at any moment. So I think it's going to happen. I like it. I think Larry Brooks was also the one who said, if Sullivan wants the job, it's his. It's just a matter of, does he want it or not? We know Drury and the Rangers want it. It's just, does Sullivan want to go play for New York and fix this team?
Yep, and there's a couple things also that I want to mention. I know that he just said he was out in Boston. He doesn't want to go work for Boston. I read that report yesterday. He doesn't like the management group. So he was apparently not going to Boston. He was not in the candidates anymore. I know that I've heard that the Rangers are a very desirable coaching place just because of what they have. It's not going to be a rebuild or they're not going to Anaheim or Chicago that are currently, bottom of the league.
Mm-hmm.
I know this year we were, but I don't think, and even we weren't even bottom of the league. We were right outside of the wild card. But this is a team that, is and Mark Messier said it, PK Subban has said it, for any of those who are watching the broadcast, obviously in between games, are talking about it a lot, and just in general, this is a team that is a couple pieces away from being right back where they were, and with the right coaching staff, obviously that's, as we're covering here, it's a big step in that process. And I know that for a while you said it, Drury, obviously would love to have had it, and it was a pipe dream for what seemed like forever. But I feel like this is going to be very similar to the who was the Bruins head coach that got fired and then hired by the Blues. It's going to be a similar move to that.
Am I blanking?
Or even like a Bruce Cassidy, where a coach gets fired by a team and he gets scooped up, and then that team experiences immediate success. I think that's going to be very similar to this, or I'm hoping at least that, Mike Sullivan can come in, like I said, also barring the Rangers sign him, which I think Jim Montgomery, that's the one. But I think yeah, that's a good pull, because I could not think of it. I could see.
I didn't pull it. I looked it up.
I could see his face and his big bald head, singing at the Blues game, because he was caught singing in between whistles or something. But I think that this is going to be a very pivotal move for the Rangers. I think that if Sullivan comes, which I think it would be best for him as well, to continue to build on that resume, I don't think it would really benefit him to go elsewhere. I think that if he's looking to experience more success immediately, this is the spot to be. I think it benefits both parties. I think it'd be silly for him not to. Obviously, as you said, if he wants the job, it's his. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But I think that this is the next big step in terms of this retool. I think it's the most logical step, and I hope they can get it done.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't want to say too much, because, like I said, I do genuinely believe this is going to happen. Like, whether you want it to or not, I think if you're a betting man, bet on Sullivan being the next head coach of the Rangers. So, I mean, if the hiring happens, when the hiring happens, we are going to make an episode talking about it. So I'm going to save the rest of my thoughts. I feel like I've already said enough in favor of him. I need to have words to say next episode, so I'm not just repeating myself. But if you want to see that episode, stay tuned. But that about concludes episode 3 of Fixing the Rangers. I don't know how many episodes this miniseries is going to be, but I have to assume we're probably around the halfway mark. I know there's a lot of moves the Rangers need to make, but I want to keep it nice and concise. I don't want to get too crazy and keep outliving my my lifetime here. Some TV shows you're like, this should have ended like 10 seasons ago. I don't want to be like them. But we'll see. If you have any suggestions for what the next move should be, let us know down in the comment section below. But until then, if you guys enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe, ring that bell to miss notification, and be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers. Pretty much all the content there right now is daily updates and rumors and discussions about the coaching position. So if you want like basically hourly updates, check that out. But yeah, have a good one. And let's go Rangers.